You've heard this one 100 times. Skip the $5 coffee. Invest that money instead. And one day, you'll retire a millionaire. It's clean, it's catchy, and it makes you feel like wealth is just one bad habit away. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The math behind that promise is real, but it's pointed at the wrong target. Your daily latte is a rounding error. It is a tiny pebble next to the 3 giant boulders that actually decide whether you build wealth. And while everyone's been busy feeling guilty about coffee, those boulders have been sitting there, untouched, quietly running the whole show. So in the next 9 minutes, let's do something different. Let's take the famous Latte Factor and stress test it honestly. We'll show you exactly where the story falls apart, where it's still worth keeping, and the 3 levers that move real money. By the end, you'll know precisely where to aim, and you can finally drink your coffee in peace. Let's start by giving the Latte Factor its fair shot, because the pitch is genuinely seductive. The idea was popularized by David Bach in his 2003 book, The Automatic Millionaire. The logic goes like this. You buy a $5 coffee every single day. $5 times 365 days is $1,825 a year. That's real money, just leaking out 1 cup at a time. Now here's the magic trick. Take that $1,825 a year, invest it, and let it compound. Using the classic optimistic assumption of about 10% returns over roughly 40 years, the projection lands somewhere near $900,000 to $1 million. $1 million from coffee. You can see why this idea went viral and never left. And look, the spirit is good. It points at small leaks and the power of compounding. But notice what's quietly doing all the heavy lifting here. It's not the coffee. It's that 10% return running for 40 straight years. That return is illustrative, and it is absolutely not guaranteed. So let's hold this claim up to the light and test it. Now let's ask the question almost nobody asks. If you actually want to free up money, where is your money even going? Because it is not going to coffee. We can prove that with hard data. Every year, the Bureau of Labor Statistics runs the Consumer Expenditure Survey. It tracks where the average American household actually spends, and the picture is incredibly consistent. 3 categories dominate everything else. Number 1 is housing, at 33.4% of spending. That's $26,266 a year. Number 2 is transportation, at 17%, or $13,318 a year. And number 3 is food, at 12.9%. Add those up. Housing, transportation, and food are 63.3% of everything a household spends. The big 3. Nearly 2 out of every $3. Now where does the famous coffee fit? It lives inside food away from home, a category that totals just $3,945 a year for the entire household. And coffee is only a sliver of that. So when you obsess over the latte, you are fighting over a crumb while ignoring the entire cake. The cut that matters isn't coffee. It's the big 3. So let's put this head to head, because seeing it side by side is what makes it click. Think of every spending category as a lever. Some levers, when you pull them, barely move your finances. Others move a lot. The question is simple. For the same effort, which lever frees up more money? Lever 1 is the latte. Cut your $5 a day coffee completely. Gone. Forever. That saves you $1,825 a year. Real, but small. Now lever 2. Don't even eliminate anything. Just trim. Take your 2 biggest categories, housing and transportation, which together cost about $39,584 a year. Find a modest 10% improvement. A cheaper lease, a refinance, a paid-off car instead of a new one less car in the driveway. A 10% trim on those 2 frees up roughly $3,958 a year. That is about 2.2 times your entire coffee habit. You didn't give up a single cup. You just renegotiated the boulders instead of polishing the pebble. Same willpower. More than double the money. But here's the lever the Latte Factor completely ignores. And it might be the most powerful one of all. Income. Every spending cut has a hard floor. You can trim a budget, but you cannot spend less than 0. There's a wall, and once you hit it, the lever stops moving. Coffee, subscriptions, groceries, they all bottom out. You will run out of things to cut long before you run out of need. Income has no such ceiling. There's no upper wall. What you earn can keep climbing through raises, new skills, a better job, a side income, and the numbers here are not close. In 2024, the real median household income in the United States was $83,730, according to the Census Bureau. A 10% raise on that is $8,373 a year. That is roughly 4.6 times the entire latte habit. One raise outruns a lifetime of coffee guilt. Now, an honest caveat. Raises are not free, and they are not instant. You have to earn them, and sometimes the answer is no. The point here isn't a guarantee, it's direction. When you're choosing where to aim your energy, the income lever has the longest reach by far. So, is the latte factor just a lie? No. And this is the part worth keeping. The compounding engine the whole story relied on is completely real. That part was never the problem. The problem was the fuel. They poured in a teaspoon of coffee money and promised a tank of gas. Feed that same engine a bigger, steadier input, and watch what actually happens. Let's keep it conservative. Take that same $150 a month, which is your $5 a day in another form. But instead of the aggressive 10%, let's use 7%. That's the long-run historical stock market return after you subtract inflation. The honest number. After 10 years, you'd have about $26,000. After 20 years, about $78,000. After 30 years, about $183,000. And after 40 years, about $394,000. Now here's the beautiful part. Out of that $394,000, you only ever contributed $72,000. Everything else, more than $300,000, is pure growth. The engine did the heavy lifting. That is the truth the latte factor was reaching for. Consistency plus time plus compounding is genuinely powerful. The story just aimed it at too small an input and dressed it up with a return that isn't promised to anyone. So let's pull it together. The latte factor isn't a lie. It's misaimed. Compounding is genuinely powerful. But on a $5 a day input, it's a slow drip, not a fire hose. And the catch is, the magic always came from an optimistic 10% return, not from skipping the coffee. The levers that actually decide your wealth are bigger and far less glamorous. They're the big three: housing, transportation, and food, which eat up 63% of the average budget. And above all of them sits your income, the one lever with no ceiling. So flip the whole script. Cut where the money actually is, the boulders, not the pebbles. Grow what you earn, because that lever has the longest reach. And then let consistent investing compound quietly in the background. Do that, and you can finally skip the guilt over a cup of coffee. This is education, not financial advice, and every figure here is illustrative. But the direction is solid. Aim at the big levers first. If this just gave you permission to enjoy your coffee again, while pointing you at the levers that really matter, hit subscribe. That's the whole point of this channel. The money truths nobody actually explains, minus the guilt and the gimmicks. And here's your perfect next step. We kept saying compounding is the real engine, the thing doing the heavy lifting in that final curve. But how does it actually work? And why does it explode so dramatically in those last 10 years? That's not financial advice. It's the single most important concept in building wealth, and it deserves its own deep dive. Watch the video on compound interest next, and you'll never look at time the same way again. I'll see you there.